We're back, and so is anime. Anime's been gone this whole time, in case you didn't notice.
You couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
We turned off the fucking lights in the building, and anime went right with it. Couldn't watch
Mm-hmm.
shit.
But we're maladjusted, and we've returned with a third guy this time.
Yeah, what's up?
Give the intro.
We've got Chris here with us, with Wade and myself, Yems, and we're going to talk about anime right now. So, this week it is currently August 28th, and what has everybody been watching? Wade, you start?
You want me to start? I only watch one seasonal this season, and it is the Studio Shaft, RWBY adaptation slash, like, we added new stuff for fun.
Would you call it a reboot?
I mean, I guess kind of. It still generally follows the same events. It's just like I don't know, maybe like a director's cut.
Okay.
Of the first season is what I would call this. But like most of the series is like only the first two episodes are actually covering content that happened in the original run, and then the rest is just like I don't know. It almost feels like what you would have put in like an anime movie, you know, like just an extra event that happens in between seasons. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what it feels like to me, like in terms of how they structured it.
So, what exactly is RWBY?
So RWBY is like Rooster Teeth, the dudes who did Red versus Blue. They eventually came in contact with a dude named Monty, who was, unfortunately, like a 3D animator who would just post a bunch of like, I put Cloud or Tifa or just some anime character in this scene, and then they're all doing these crazy fights. And they eventually, professionally got in contact to him in the later seasons of Red versus Blue to do a like a SF, or not, I guess SFM before SFM, but basically like an animated 3D scene of a bunch of the Red versus Blue characters fighting, and then that started their like professional relationship, and it eventually got him to start his own project for Rooster Teeth called RWBY. And RWBY is sort of an amalgamate of all the ideas that he liked from just watching anime, like specifically a lot of shonen anime that came out in the West and was like aired, on like Cartoon Network and shit. And it's got like a sort of a very strange development period, and into the third season, he unfortunately passed away due to, I think it was like a freak allergic reaction during like a routine like surgery, or not a routine surgery, but like a very simple basic surgery for something. And ever since then, it's just been sort of meandering under the watch of its two showrunners. But RWBY Ice Queendom is the anime I've been watching, and that is a production by Studio Shaft. It's got like I think Gan Urabochi did a bunch of like original like series composition stuff for it.
Uh-huh.
And it spends the first two episodes going over basically intensely compressed version of the first season of the original run of RWBY, and then the rest of the series so far launches into this expanded sort of character arc for one of the main cast, the girl Weiss. She's the sort of uptight princess archetype character.
Okay.
And her sort of point of conflict throughout the course of the entire first season in the original run was that she was uptight, she was like a rich girl, and she didn't get along with the fantasy minority.
Like, she's racist. I was gonna say.
Yeah. She doesn't get along with the fantasy, like.
Oh no.
The fantasy like minority race that's like all like sort of animal hybrid people.
Oh, those
They
people.
yeah, just like cat girls are like, hey, I'm like a person, but like I have like a dog tail, just sort of stuff like that. And she's racist against them because there's this one like terrorist group, and
It's like Israel and Palestine.
yeah,
Exactly
yeah,
like
and
that. That's
No,
crazy.
it's actually really a lot like
yeah, it's
that.
very similar.
It's
And
messed
in
up.
the original run, it was very clumsily just sort of like shafted out and like written like, oh, one event happened and now her racism is solved forever.
That
And
happens.
so what Ice Queendom does is it introduces like a new like threat in the form of a monster that inhabits like people's nightmares and like kills them from the inside. And there's this new character they added that will allow like characters to go into the dreams of that character and sort of extract the monster and fight it to defeat it. And so naturally Weiss, being one of the main points of conflict, interpersonal conflict throughout the entire first volume, gets this creature in the anime like attached to her, and she eventually falls ill, and the person comes in and explains the whole shebang, and then her friends have to go in to her dream and save her. And they go in the dream, and it's it's sort of standard fare for entering someone's dream in a piece of media. Everything is a representation of the way that she sees and experiences the world.
Okay.
And so the terrorist group are sort of forced outside of this really big elaborate city that she sort of sees herself in charge of, and all of her friends are like locked up because she initially the characters believe that she views them as inferior, but she's keeping them locked up to protect them, sort of, is one of the twists.
So did the monster make her racist, or was she already racist?
I think
She
she
was
was
already
racist.
racist.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was
Society.
racist
Her
because
parents were
her
racist.
dad
Yeah.
made her racist because her dad is evil.
Okay. Okay.
And so a lot of it is just going through that, exploring what exactly is in the dream, how Weiss really sees a lot of the world around her, how she perceives reality. And after a couple episodes spent just examining that and playing around with that, they start saying, oh, we got to eliminate Dugrim. And so they've just been doing that. The Grim is the name for the monster, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So they've just been doing that, and it's sort of just more of a like a shonen at this point, and it's not really clear where it's going right now, but I've been enjoying it a lot so far. I think in terms of how you fix the problems that the original run of RWBY has, something like this is perfect because it fixes the flimsiness of the conflict in the first season and makes every character feel more like a character and not just a piece of cardboard that will progress the plot when it is convenient.
Okay. So so
Go ahead.
you would say that as a RWBY enjoyer, you think
Yeah.
this is a good addition to the series?
Yes, I think that this anime will probably become the definitive way to experience the first season if you stop every time there's a major fight scene and go watch the original run.
I was
and then
gonna
as soon as
ask
the fight
about
scene
that.
ends, you stop watching it and go back to the anime. And that's
'Cause
how I
that-
think you should experience the first season of RWBY.
So I have only seen the first 3 episodes of this that got batch released at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And I have seen a episode 1 or 2 of OG RWBY, and then I am just culturally familiar with it through osmosis. I watched the H Bomber Guy video, which I know is
Yeah.
divisive, but like so I know a lot about RWBY and its production and everything. Should I continue watching it? Because my friend group has not. I have not seen past episode 3 because I was like a mixed bag. I didn't think that the changes in the first 3 episodes had done anything super interesting, and that it was still kind of bland. And also, obviously, there were some really good fights that were cut in
Yeah.
that you were just talking about, and I went back and watched the like original Monty ones, and I was like, damn, that was way better. Anyway, so should we keep watching it? Is it worth it?
It's sort of hard to say. I think what it delivers to me and its strengths is the fact that it particularly scratches my personal itch of the fact that I didn't like the way the first season was, and I didn't like how flimsy the characters were. And I think for what it's worth, despite being, pretty archetypical characters, they're still executed well enough that it feels nice, and I think that it has a pretty strong grasp on understanding like what makes something cool and isn't afraid to indulge in that, which is like what I think that Ruby's greatest strength was, is that indulging in things that are just cool. Like there are so many shots in the anime of Weiss just like standing around in her really cool outfit with the cool hat and the glasses, and she's just like standing there casting like a crazy spell, and like her voice actors just knocking out her voice actress is just knocking out of the park with some like cool speech. There's a lot of just cool moments, and I think if that's what you're into it for, then yeah, I think it's worth a watch.
I mean, that's like the fundamental appeal of RWBY, right? That is
Yeah.
just like, oh,
That's what it's there for.
it's something that's just like cool. That's why the characters are in the BB tag. Like,
Yeah.
that's why this anime
Yeah.
exists, is because some person in Japan saw it and they're like, yo, that's tight.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, they
sick.
probably watched the trailers, which are the best part of RWBY. I haven't seen RWBY,
yeah. They
but
pretty much are.
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
I'm on like, it's good that we have like the full spectrum here, because like Wade's a RWBY enjoyer, and it seems like, Chris, you have limited exposure to RWBY, like you have an understanding of it, right? I am a person who saw RWBY and I'm like, that's cringe, and I stopped right there.
Yeah.
It was
I
less
don't-
good than I thought it was going to be when it debuted. That's how, because
Yeah.
I remember the hype train of it originally coming out. I was like in high school, like middle school, high school somewhere,
Yeah.
and I watched episode 1 and I was like, oh, this is just like really, like, I appreciated what they were doing. I was like, okay, this is cool. It's a cool little fan project, but it was really amateur, and I was expecting something a little bit more polished, I think, and so I fell off of it.
And eventually you got to the point where it's just like you're just hitting the story beats that you saw in this show because you thought it was cool. And
Yeah.
it's like this doesn't have anything to say or serve itself. I could talk forever about the later seasons of RWBY and how bad they are, but we don't really have time for that, nor
Yeah.
do we need to.
Yeah. So
Cool.
that's kind of like all you're watching this season.
Yeah, for now. I was watching a little bit of Yofukashi no Ota, but like I watched like the first 3 episodes and sort of I didn't drop it, but it's on the back burner.
Okay, we can talk about that in a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can
we'll
talk
get to
about
that.
in a bit, yeah.
I'm gonna go over what I'm watching, because there is some overlap with me and Chris here. And
I
we
was gonna
can-
say you just do yours, and I'll chime in on the ones that I am also watching, and then I can talk about what I'm just watching, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah. So to start off with, I'm gonna start off with the worst one that I'm watching, and the worst show that I'm watching this season is Overlord 4. Big surprise that that's not very good. Not a surprise at all if you've watched the previous 3 seasons of Overlord. Raise your hands.
I've seen season 1 or some of season 1. I think it's been a while.
Okay. Wait, did you watch season 3 of Overlord, or how much of Overlord did you watch? You watch any of it? I don't think
You
you
there?
watched any of it.
Damn.
We'll have to edit that one out. Anyway, so season 4 of Overlord is just like, I watched the first episode with Wade, and it was kind of excruciating because like it was just like so much nothing, where like characters were just having these like over the top personalities and like behaving ridiculously, and things were just happening that I guess it kind of expected you to like remember or inherently know what was going on. Like there was just a scene where like mysterious crystal bugs or something Do you remember the bugs?
The fucking bugs. It's the way the bugs happened is like the only thing I remember about that first episode. Like basically the entire episode just happened like in an office, and they were
Yeah.
just talking like the most boring, means nothing fantasy politics of all time, and then randomly in the middle there's a cut where it cuts to like the ceiling of this room, like of the office room, and there's like these like stealth like invisible bugs that are just chittering around, and they show up for like 5 seconds and are like flashing, you know, their like invisibility cloak just enough for you to discern that they're there, and then they cut back to the politics stuff and they're never mentioned again. It was the most baffling
Cool.
thing I have ever experienced. And according to Yams, at least last time we talked about it, they have not shown up again.
Yeah, the bugs haven't returned.
It just
Cool.
happens.
I remember now that there is a character that is like, I guess, bug themed, and like I guess has like an army of bugs or something as like their thing, but like it hasn't played in at all. I don't know why that shot of the bugs was there, but anyway, Overlord season 4 continues like Overlord's kind of, I guess, like the expression of the one joke that this show has, because the one joke of Overlord is like, this guy is like a normal guy, like he's supposed to be like a salaryman, like otaku loser who just like loved playing MMO, but now he's like inhabiting the body of his character, which is like a lich or something, and he's like the most powerfulest dude of all time. And kind of like the way that that joke is expressing itself this season is every single episode there's just like a problem that he has to handle, like a political problem or like a military problem or something like that, and he has no clue how to solve it. And so he just like says something kind of offhand, and then one of his NPC minions misinterprets what he says as like some genius statement, and then says like, well, of course this means what you want us to do is, and then insert like hilarious supervillain plot there. And then he's like, whoa, whoa, and then he has to run with it, and that's every episode.
Cool.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's not like it's not as fun as watching ReZero, because ReZero season 2 was kind of like just such peak like contrast between how seriously it was taking itself and how like miserably stupid everything that was happening was.
Yeah.
Overlord is a little bit more lighthearted in terms of how it perceives itself, which makes it a little bit less fun to hate watch. But currently it's just been going on and I just want it to be over.
It will not stop.
Yeah, and
You'll
get a
have
fifth
to be the
season.
change here.
It'll
It's like,
keep going.
you can keep watching it, but you can also stop watching it.
Yeah, I could stop watching it, but you know, I started watching it, and I guess I'll keep watching this dumpster fire. The second show that I'm watching, which we're both watching, so we'll have a little bit to talk about, is Yurei Deco, which is the Science Saru show of this season. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings on it, because I enjoy it, and I think it's like fun to look at, and I like the character designs and all that, and we're getting some more like plot stuff in the most recent episode. But also it feels like it's going pretty slow for a show that doesn't have that many episodes to go slow in.
I agree. I will say this is one of the shows I am the most behind on right now. I think I'm on episode 5. So
Okay.
I'm maybe three or four behind where we are right now, but I agree with what you're saying. I think that it is taking its time to sort of ramp up into a macro plot that, for what I can tell, kind of going for this like slow mystery thing.
Yeah, there's definitely some like world mysteries that I think it's kind of hiding a little bit too much, which usually when you have this kind of show, it's like you sort of establish some questions that you should be asking in I guess like the first 5 or 6 episodes, and then you take like 3 episodes to kind of have like have the characters form a hypothesis for that question, and then the end of the series is giving the actual answers and testing the character's hypothesis and getting a resolution there.
Right.
However, where we're currently at with this series, I still don't really know what the questions I'm supposed to be asking are.
Yeah, it's like who is the one entity, and that's really it. That's at least where we are when I was at. Should we go a brief summary of the plot of like what the vibe for Wade and
Yeah, yeah,
other
yeah.
listeners? Okay,
So
so you
you
go
go
ahead.
first. You go
Oh,
first.
me? I'll do it. All right. So this is the best way I can describe it is like a weird mash of Coil and like Summer Wars, if you've seen either of those things. If you haven't, it is a very far futuristic sort of dystopia that is not as dysfunctional as other dystopias. It's not like Fallout. It's like a society. It's very, I guess, cyberpunk adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is kind of shitty and run down, except that everyone uses AR technology.
Yeah.
And it's like a mix between like sort of AR and then full dive VR, to sort of augment the world. Everyone can use avatars, their clothes change, their outfits change, their like you can also just make yourself a furry if you want, like a
Oh.
creature. Um, and the entire system works on with a currency called love points, which is I think maintained through what is essentially social media engagement
It's
and like
social
likes
credit.
on it. Yeah, it's social credit.
Oh.
Xi Jinping would be happy.
Yeah.
It is not portrayed in a positive way. Like it's clearly meant to be like, damn, that's fucked up, society, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world building is actually really cool, and I think that they're spending, at least in the part where I am at, a lot of time. That like that's the whole show so far. It's just been like getting to introduce to a pretty big cast of characters and kind of explaining how the world works. Um, I think it is cool. I just like the vibe. I think it is an interesting concept with really good character design. You can tell Yuasa is not directing this one, but I believe he was the original creator, and
Yeah.
you can tell.
He's behind the
Um,
concept.
so it is like Yam said, maybe not as cohesive or as good as something that if he was like doing the show running and making himself. It's got a couple of issues here and there, but I still like it. It is criminally underwatched. Literally nobody is watching this show. It's got
Yeah.
like 11,000 on Mal. I have no idea how this one flew under the radar so hard.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's also, I think, like, it's also got, like, some aspect of it where it is also trying to be kind of like this reinterpretation of, like, Mark Twain stories of, like, Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer and all that. Like, because there are characters named Huck, Biddy, and
Yeah.
Finn. Like, there's like
Yeah.
these characters that are like, and they all live on Tom Sawyer Island is the name of their civilization.
I couldn't tell how much of that was the Japanese we name things after English references or if it was more direct. So,
There are some direct parallels in, like, how the story at least, like, establishes itself, like how Barry meets up with Hack, and uh it's funny also because the character's name is Hack, like, which sounds like how a Japanese person would say Huck, but also they're a hacker. So, you get
Yeah.
that?
I mean,
very genius stuff.
Yeah.
Top
So
notch.
I am just hoping that we get at least some kind of answers towards the end of the show. Because if the show is just like all vibes, then that's like fun. You know, we created a fun world and we tell some like small little stories and we have a tiny mystery in there. That's okay. It's not groundbreaking, but it's like enjoyable. I think if you go into this show kind of like a problem I think you might encounter is if you see this and you think of, oh, this is like Den no Coil meets Kaiba, and those are the two in your head, you're going to be so
Yeah,
disappointed.
they're better. They're both better shows. It's drawing from better stuff, at least so far. We'll see.
Yeah. So that's Yurei Deco, which is fun. If it ends strong, I'll give it a recommend to you to watch, Wade. But otherwise,
Yeah.
watch at your leisure. It might be cool, it might not be cool. The next show, which again we're both watching, is Lycoris Recoil, which I did not start watching at the beginning of the season. I actually got into it like, um, you know what actually got me to watch it? I saw the clip of the episode where they like have their like fun little aquarium date,
Mm-hmm.
and she does like the fish pose and yells
Yeah, it's
sakana.
peak.
Yeah, that's like, kind of cute girl show, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. What show is this? And then, I'm like, oh, this is this show. Is it just a cute girl show? Because I can still skip. And then I realize it's a cute girl show where they shoot guns.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, you got me. So the plot of Lycoris Recoil is the characters are the like titular Lycoris agents, I guess you would call them. They're kind of like government cleaners. They do like preventative like law enforcement, anti-terrorism activities on behalf of the Japanese government, and they're all like, teenage girls, because of course they are, and they're all very secret squirrel assassin types. And our main character, Takina, meets kind of like a minor disaster in her career. And so she's booted from the main government office where she wants to work, and has to work kind of this smaller local beat with a renowned legendary agent, Chisato. And they work in like a cafe part time, and they don't do typical Licorice agent work. They do like kind of odd jobs around the neighborhood and stuff like that. They deliver like coffee to people and teach English at a school, that sort of stuff. And it's it starts out there and sort of, I guess, blossoms into more of a sort of uh spy thriller terrorist plot, with bigger mysteries surrounding it. And it's been pretty fun, pretty enjoyable. What are your thoughts?
I love this show. I think this is my favorite show of this season. If you don't count Summertime, but which is kind of a spring show anyway. Um or like sequels. I think of all the new stuff, this was such a surprise to me, because it's original and it like it's just a new show that came out of nowhere. Um it is extremely polished, like really really good animation and production. The gunfighting is insane.
Yeah, the
It's like
gunfights look
some
cool.
so an important thing to mention is that Chisato, who is essentially anime John Wick,
Right.
is the reason that they're doing all those odd jobs at the beginning is because and also the reason she's not at the main org anymore is that she's kind of disagrees with their methods now, and is she wants to fight non-lethally, and the rest
Oh
of these
yeah,
people are
yeah.
like fucking shooting these terrorists in the head. But despite Chisato being like the goat and having it probably could kill them all instantly if she wanted to, she uses rubber bullets that only really can hit at close range, so she has to like run up and get in their face and like shoot them with a rubber bullet gun, which creates these really intense action sequences. I think it's a great way to like have a character that's a god and have stakes still, because she could
Mhm.
totally get her fucking brains blown out if she's not careful. She can also literally dodge bullets because she's
Yeah.
goated.
They make like a contrived, like, oh, she can see the positioning of your body and react to
Yeah,
your movements before you're about to fire, which
yeah,
is
that
like
kind of
so
bullshit.
stupid, but it's
It
like
works.
whatever, man. It's cool.
There's a scene where she shoots holes clean through a steel car door and then shoots a man, and the man is okay with the same gun. It's not like realism is not the show's peak, and they know it too, which is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. It's cool. Is
Uh,
the thing.
That's
it's
cool.
really cool. And so the fact that they're able to do that, like, and also we're ramping up into like a proper, like Gam said, terrorist intrigue spy, like action show shit, right? And at the same time, it like nails the sort of cute girls like slice of life elements. The chemistry between the two leads is really good.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I got baited.
because
I'm currently getting
I
baited.
I think this show might do. I know we say this sometimes about television anime, but they made a comment in one of the episodes about the owner, the cafe owner, being gay, and so anime doesn't usually acknowledge that gay people exist at all. So I don't know. The, I would say that they have been framed pretty romantically in this show so far.
Yeah,
There's a chance.
but there's also a chance that it'll just end with that,
Yeah.
because like they had a moment, and I'm not gonna say exactly what happens, but there was a moment in the last episode, you watched it, right, where
I think we might be one or two behind. Oh wait, hold on. Let me double check this real quick. Um, yeah, I think we're one episode behind
okay,
on this one.
because I watched the latest episode, and there is a moment where it made me think that maybe they will bait me, because I mean, they might not, but they might end the series with just like, and then they were such good friends. The end.
Right.
Which, it'll still be cool. Like the cool thing is that it's not like reliant upon like this sort of romance bait. It kind of stands on its own. And the like romance bait is maybe just like an extra flavor that would be cool to have in there. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty enjoyable. It's maybe like, of the 4 shows that I'm watching, it's in the top 2 at least. So
I really like the character writing, at least for the main two leads. I think some of the other side characters are a little weaker, obviously, but like the main two leads are really cool. I think what they do with Takina's character, because like the show starts out making you think that she's just like a fucking bad
Stone
cop who doesn't play
Cold.
by the rules, and then and because she's very like reserved and super serious, but then you find out as the show goes on very quickly that she's just reserved, and what she did to get fired basically was the right call, and she was covering for bad leadership, and et cetera, et cetera. It's cool. It's a cool dynamic they have.
Yeah, it all feels like well put together and well thought out, and like somebody actually wrote down what they wanted the
Yeah,
show to be like before they started animating it, which it feels rare.
I think that's probably a big part for me, is that this is like a very much like Odd Taxi last year. It's like, oh wow, it's a show that is planned, and they know what they're doing with it and are executing, which is like a standard, for entertainment that you would hope happened more often, but especially
Yeah,
with anime, it doesn't.
a lot of times they do a lot of improv.
Yeah, still big recommend. This is a good one.
Hmm.
I think based on other shows that Wade likes, that I think you would like this show. For the
Yeah,
record,
It sounds like something I'd like.
if it
yeah,
finishes strong, I'll absolutely tell you to watch it. But much like we've seen, there's
yeah,
always room for them to ruin it at the very end.
yeah. Stay
So
vigilant.
at the last one on my list of things that I've been watching this season, uh, is Summertime Render, or Summertime Rendering. It kind of, I guess, like they made it different for like the localized title. Not sure why, but this is a show that started last season, and it kind of went in a slightly different direction than I thought it was going to go, but it's still been like really cool and I've enjoyed it. It hasn't like dragged or like lost its draw necessarily, uh, which is, good to see that it's gone past one core and it's still like holding up. It's a show. I guess like a quick plot synopsis is it's a little bit Steins Gatesy, where it's about a guy who is doing like time loops to try to save a girl, and that's like the most basic way you could explain the plot, which is true. Uh, but more specifically, he comes back to his like hometown, which is on this like little Japanese island. You know, they have a whole bunch of these little tropical islands where like a very small population lives, and this is one of them. And on this island, there's this like legend of a shadow sickness where you see like a doppelganger and then you die, and these doppelgangers turn out to be real, and they're nefarious, and they're working together for some secret plot to try to kill everybody on the island. And our protagonist has to use his like time looping powers to try to fight these creatures and protect his like adopted family that raised him on this island. His adopted family also having his like, I guess, love interest who died, and that's the reason why he came back to the island to go
Yeah.
to her funeral. But it gets a little bit more complex from there, but that's kind of like the basics. And it so far has been visually very well put together. It looks great. It's been narratively pretty consistent. It moves at a good pace. It's well paced. The characters are all pretty enjoyable. Unlike Steins Gate, I don't want him to just leave and ignore the girl who's gonna die, because in Steins Gate, I can't even remember her name. I wanted her to die anyway.
Yurei? Oh yeah.
Yeah. She sucks so bad. But yeah, no, it's been good, and like all the like supporting characters also get like enough time to like get fleshed out and make you care about them, and they have their own motivations, and you can understand how they're interacting with the situation and with our protagonist in a way that makes sense. And yeah, it just seems like a really competent show.
Yeah, I love this show. I think it's one of the best this year so far. I think that it does a couple of things uniquely, which I think kind of make it stand out. Like we talked a little bit about Yuri Deco doing the mystery thing. This show is a proper mystery. That's like what genre I would consider it, and it like does a thing that I think a lot of mysteries don't do a very good job of, which is it drip feeds you information in a way that is really satisfying. It keeps you really hooked because you want to know what the fuck is going on, especially in the first half. But you find out information, and there are like mechanics to how all this shit works, and you learn more and more and more each episode. And it escalates quite a bit because once you find out kind of what's going on in the middle section, and the stakes escalate with it as well in a way that I think uh, was probably really difficult to pull off in a way that like made sense. And another big part about it is that, like we said, it's doing the time loop thing, which has been a really popular narrative beat recently in the past couple of years between like games, TV, and anime. And this one actually, I think, maybe not subverts is the best word, but it plays with the rules of that in a way that I have not seen anything else do.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's like it's like, oh, ReZero, that's a really broken power. What if there were like consequences for your actions? Like you don't get to do this for free, and is basically how it plays out. And so it messes with the mechanics of how he's looping, and like it's not the ReZero I get free reset anytime I want, basically. Um, in a lot that in a way that a lot of these other ones are. So I think it's cool that we can take a mechanic like time looping and then expand on it, do some new stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
even more so than like Steins Gate, which I think did also have like consequences for time looping, and there were like limitations to it. But even then, it felt like there were a lot of moments in Steins Gate where it was just like, oh, okay, he has to try again. Whereas in this show, I think the time loop, it like each individual loop feels like it has so much more weight, and there's much more consequences to everything, and much more that the character has to learn and understand and overcome in each loop in order to progress further.
And I want to echo. I think the cast is really strong.
Oh yeah.
I think that, and also like you think, and I mean it should make sense, right? In a show where there's doppelgangers, and like you think that you kind of have the vibe of everybody, and then they drop some crazy shit on you, and the characters change dramatically, or you find out new pieces of information. Like there are a lot of really good reveals. It's just cool. The action's really good. Like we said, the animation and production is really good. I have been thoroughly enjoying this one, and unfortunately, it's in Disney Plus jail, a new kind of anime jail that they've invented now. So I don't think a lot of non-pirators have seen this one or are aware of it, which kind of sucks because I think it would be bigger otherwise.
Yeah, is it on Disney Plus in America?
No, I think it's definitely in Japan. I think it's out in some other countries too, because I think I've heard some people talking about it, but it is not released in the US yet. I
Okay,
was kind of hoping they'd batch release since the first core is over, but I don't think they have yet.
because the way that I've been watching it, obviously I've been pirating it. Uh Shout outs. But,
Yeah.
like it's been, I guess we're so used to like people on pirate websites just like ripping it off the streaming website that it gets licensed to in the West and just like insta uploading it. Whereas like with this show, it's been like a couple days since the episode aired and I can't download it. It's like it feels like I've gone back in time, which, obviously it's like if it's the people actually making fan subs and putting in the work,
Yeah.
that's like huge that they're going to do that.
I have a
And I
pretty
appreciate
good
it.
subgroup that is pretty consistent, so they've been nice. But yeah, shout outs to fan subbers, the actual backbone of the anime community.
Mm-hmm. But as far as shows that I've been watching this season, that's it for me. Now I see Chris, you were watching a few others
A
that
bunch, yeah.
neither of us are watching. You want to go over
Okay,
like what you've been
I'm
watching?
gonna speed around it because I'm not gonna. I'll like go into all of them. We could talk about maybe if Yofukashi no Uta last, since
Yeah.
several of us are watching that. Made in Abyss season 2 is happening. It's just as good as season 1. I assume anyone who was watching it before and like enjoys it will continue to like it because it's, you know,
Are they still
more of
weird
the
with
same
kids?
vibes. Yeah, man.
Oh.
Yeah. I think if that I think oh god, I'm gonna get into this just for like a little bit. I think if that puts you off, that is completely valid because I am 95% sure the author of this manga is a pedophile. I think that Kinema Citrus knows this and tries to tone it down when they can in the anime, but it still chooses to include stuff that I would say it falls between borderline and just straight up like deeply uncomfortable. A lot of it can be kind of hand waved because it's used as a horror element, but then there's those occasional scenes that you're like, hey now, you didn't need to put this in here. This is weird. Why does this feel sexual?
Yeah, it's not
Um,
scary, it's just odd.
it's just
Yeah.
strange, yeah. But if you can get past that, um, I mean the show is gross in general, and in a like visceral body horror. Like that's what I would classify this whole show is like. It is a very body horror type show in general, right? And there's a lot of that this season too. So it does kind of tie in with all of that. It's just dark. And so I guess your mileage may vary on how much you can handle. I think if you can get past that, it is still genuinely very good. Narratively and production values and the music is incredible, obviously. I have been enjoying it quite a bit this season as well. I think it's actually been a little bit better than season 1 because I think season 1 had some pacing issues and this one's been a lot more consistent.
Okay, because I
Um,
did watch season one.
did you watch the movie?
I did not watch Is the movie mandatory? Do I got to watch the movie?
Yes. The it is literally season 1, which plays straight into the movie, which plays immediately. Season 2 is immediately after the movie, and you're there.
Okay.
They talk about a bunch of shit that happened in it that is required. So
I might pick it back up because like I did enjoy like a lot of aspects of season 1.
you'll like season 2, I think.
Like I like the creature design, like all the funny little
Oh, dude.
monsters. They're so
There's
cool.
a lot of the season 2 takes place in a village of new cool monsters. That's what the whole season is about. So if you like the character design and the creature design, that's what this one's all about.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, my only weird thing was like again like the way that like children's bodies were depicted and like especially like a lot of season 1. I it probably didn't happen as many times as I'm like imagining it in my head, but like a lot of like urination and vomit
Yeah, no.
and just like that stuff. Like
Rico takes a dump on screen. It's not explicitly shown, but there's sound effects in episode 1, and so it's like, oh boy, I'm watching Made in Abyss again. Yep. So there's like some truly ridiculous like stock fart noise in episode 1. I kind of lost my mind.
That might
it was
be
really
funny.
It was hilarious.
Funny.
It's extremely funny, but at the same time, it's like, wow, I am watching, or I guess listening to more. She's like in the background, kind of half covered up. Anyway, it's one of those things. That scene could have been cut. Didn't need to happen, but it did. So that's the type of shit when I'm like, did they really need to do this? Did they need to include this? Anyway. The movie's great, but though I was gonna say, like, even if you don't watch season 2, I think you should watch the movie. It's good. Okay. I'll do the other season 2 real quick. I'm watching Shadow's House season 2. I don't know if either of you know anything about this one, or watched any of season 1.
No clue.
Extremely cool concept. It is a gothic Victorian vibe type like fantasy. Oh, there's a term. Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. That
Okay,
because
okay.
it's based off of a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale about the shadow people. I can't remember what it's called. It's a famous one. So the concept is that there are this extremely powerful family of shadows, which are like dark silhouette type people that are like black and they emit soot. And they call them dolls in quotation marks. They're not dolls, they're people, as their faces. And so the shadows have a doll correspondent, and the shadow is a silhouette of the doll basically. And so they train these humans to be their faces and to like emote for them basically. And so they're partners and they do everything together. That's the loose plot. Is about the main girl whose name is Emilico, who is the face of this other girl who I'm forgetting the name of. And it is about them kind of learning the ropes and how it works. It's all in one gigantic, like, I don't know, like Metroidvania style single house that is also like an entire country, basically. I don't know how to describe it. It's huge and they never leave it.
So they're in Dracula's castle.
Yeah. In Castlevania, yeah. And there is a lot of interesting lore and world building going on. It is just a really neat concept, cool vibes. I think it's a cool show. Season 1 was solid. Season 2 has been just as good. Continuing on, if you're looking for kind of a slightly spooky, but it's not like scary or anything. It's like an eerie mystery show, and I think the characters are pretty solid. It's been fun. Okay. That's it for the sequels. Should I talk about Biscuit Hammer, the Biscuit Hammer adaptation next?
Yeah, you can talk about that because I've heard things about how it's maybe not the ideal adaptation that fans of the manga were hoping for.
Right. Have either of you read this manga or any other Mizukami stuff?
I have not personally.
Okay.
I probably should.
Okay. I would read it and not watch this, but yeah. So this is one of my favorite manga. I actually only finished it like a couple months ago. It's one of my best friend's favorite, and he's been trying to get me to read it forever. So yes, this is a poor adaptation. I went in after the first trailers dropping expecting like some like real dogs, like slideshow animation, like barely put together, rancid garbage. And yeah, like that bad. It is not that. I can confidently say it has exceeded my very, very, very low expectations. It is mostly just a kind of ugly, mediocre adaptation. I wouldn't say that they are butchering it or anything. And it's not very pretty. It's the colors are weirdly muted, and the like golem design is and animation is pretty bad. All the action is really weak, which sucks because it's basically it evolves into a battle manga as you go on. And I haven't watched any of the big fights yet, but I know they're coming, and I just don't believe that it's going to be able to like meaningfully animate any of them. So I'm worried about that. But this manga is good because Mizukami is an incredible writer, and the writing and character development is the highlight of the manga, and that all is holding up. And it is just literally on the strength of the manga, but the voice acting performances are really good. It's been okay. We're watching it with a group of like there's 4 of us, 3 of us have read the manga, and one of our friends hasn't, and this is the first time he's experiencing the story. And I am not like feeling the need to like tell him to drop it and just go read it because they're butchering it yet. So that's kind of my baseline.
Okay.
I think if you've read the manga and want to see it animated, this is fine. You'll be disappointed, but it's not the worst. I would never tell someone who had not read this to watch this. I think you could, and I think you'd probably get a decent version of the story that doesn't make you like hate it or anything. Because there's definitely been adaptations like that where people are like, "Damn, this shit sucks," and then it's a really good manga and they ruined it or whatever.
Right.
But I would still just I think just the paneling and the art in the manga is just so much better than the show. So not quite the nightmare I thought it was going to be, but it's still not great. Okay, Isekai Ojisan.
This one,
Neither of you.
I'm raising my eyebrow.
Yeah,
I'm raising my eyebrow at this one. I'm doing the rock gif at you.
I think have you not seen or read or anything like this? This is a really funny show. Actually, it is quite a funny concept. So it's a parody. It's like I would say closest to Konosuba, but it's not really just because it's about isekai and it's ripping on it, but it's not really like that at all. So it is like, what if a guy got isekai'd and then he came back, but he still has his powers in the real world? So sorry, let me rephrase. What if a gamer got isekai'd and then came back? This is a core to the show. He is a hardcore Sega fanboy, and they have a Sega license, so they drop like the juiciest Sega like the episode 1. The first question he asks when he comes out of his coma is like, "Oh, how's Sega doing in the console market?" And his nephew's just like, "Oh no, I gotta tell him." And he's devastated. And so what the way it ends up developing is actually, I did not expect this necessarily, but like the loose plot is that he still has magic, and he becomes a YouTuber doing his real magic to make money and finance himself. We're kind of in the middle of like maybe that'll go somewhere else, but so he's doing that. But what is happening is that it's basically flashing back and telling the stories of what he did in the other world, because he has this magic spell that basically plays his memories like a TV. And so it's him and his nephew, and then his nephew's childhood friend, who is very obviously in love with the nephew, but the nephew is a moron. And the reason that works and why it's not a played out bit is because when all 3 of them are watching the flashbacks, the uncle has girls like all over him. There's this elf that he saves that is a huge like tsundere basic, anime tropes, but this guy is the uncle, is a fucking moron. He like cannot pick up on any hints. He takes things way too literally, like to the extent where like any sane person would see that these women are trying to come on to him, but that's like the bit. And so him missing the cues and like things getting increasingly ridiculous. Like he gives her some super valuable ring that he found. There's like only 7 in the world, and she assumes that it's like a marriage proposal, and he's like, "You can sell this and then you'll never have to eat or to worry about eating again." And it's shit like that. And so the childhood friend is clearly in love with the nephew, and the nephew is the same way about that. It's that level of obvious, but then the nephew watching the flashbacks is like, "Oh my god, I can't believe my uncle is such a moron and can't notice that this woman is clearly in love with him." Anyway, that's a running gag. It is surprisingly funny. It's not the prettiest looking show, but it does the Konosuba thing where it's like the animation's kind of shit, but they really focus in on the reaction faces, and those are funny every time. So the shitty animation actually helps.
Okay.
It is. I thought it was gonna be mid. It's actually quite good, I would say. I am having a great time with it. It's hitting the absurd comedy thing pretty well every
Okay.
time. There's a chance it might get one note in the bits. That's what I was worried about. Is it's gonna be one of those this is the same joke told over and over thing, like Overlord or whatever. It is not like that so far. It has been doing a pretty good job of keeping it interesting. So
Well, both of
I would
us are
say
watching one Isekai show, and you know what? You win. You got the better
thanks.
one.
Thank you. I try my best. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of other like trash this
No,
season
there's
too
so
that we're
much,
that we're
probably.
skipping. But yeah, I would actually I think if you're into old Sega games, that might just be enough to watch it because they are dropping references and it's probably funnier. I don't know. I have a friend who knows more of them and he's like, "Oh, that was funny," and I'm like, "Cool,"
I love
because I don't know.
retro gaming. I love retro gaming.
Oh, he's playing. Oh fuck, what's that one Sega game with the little bird dude, the little bird car, space shooter thing? Anyone know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Fuck. Never mind.
You lost me instantly.
I'll figure it out.
I think is that it on my list?
Yeah, I think
No,
that's
yeah,
I think that's all
That's
we're
it.
watching.
That's all the TV I'm watching. Oh, we haven't talked about Yofukashi
Yeah,
no
I
Uda,
thought
that
about
one.
Oh
We can
yeah,
talk about that one.
you guys have both seen. Well, Wade's seen a little bit of that,
I've seen the
and
first couple episodes of it. And
Chris
I'm
kept
gonna
watching.
probably
So
this
what's
week.
what's that
I'm
show
watching it.
about? I know kind of sort of what the show is about. Let me tell you what I know, and then you can kind of like fill me in. So as far as I'm aware, it's like kind of a rom-com where there's like I guess a guy and he can't sleep and he meets a vampire when he's out at night because he can't sleep and the vampire's out at night, and so the vampire I guess like comes on to him and like drink his blood, and then they like get involved in some relationship, and I think like he wants to be a vampire. Is that where we're at?
Yeah. That is
So
pretty much correct. Yeah.
the plot contrivance that it establishes is that if you want to become a vampire, you have to first fall in love with a vampire. And so the protagonist sort of makes a strange decision, a strange declaration in the first episode where he's like, I've decided to become a vampire. And this was after she explained the process. So she's like, huh, what? Like, lol. You have to fall in love with me then, and I'm not gonna try and make you fall in love with me, so lol, good luck. And that's sort of the contrivance. And then as the series progresses, of course, more and more girls start getting involved with the plot.
Do they compete
Yeah.
for his affections and like the
Not
is like
kind of,
A
sort
little
of.
bit. It's not.
Yeah, I was gonna
look,
say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but
the way I've been feeling about this show is I feel like it's been skirting the line for me between like, yeah, this is good and like completely unwatchable to me, because like there's some points where it just is being very, just like, WTF, my hot anime girl has boobs, and then like sometimes it'll slip into this pretty chill, just like banter between the two characters. Like I feel like the two leads have really good chemistry. I feel like they bounce off each other super well in a lot of ways that feel fun to watch, but then sometimes it just like goes back into its turtle shell, and it's like, here's plain guy talking to tsundere woman in anime. Find out what happens next.
so you got through how many episodes of this?
3 or so. Like the
Okay.
last episode was like when the like black haired like high schooler girl
Yeah.
like sort of sparked a fight between the two leads.
Okay. Yeah, I mostly agree with what Wade said. I think we've talked about shows that have vibes. This show is 1,000% vibes. I think if you don't like get in tune with kind of what it is trying to do and the mood that it is trying to set, and it doesn't do anything for you, you're never gonna like this show. But if you do, then I think you could probably not pay attention to the plot, and that would carry the entire show. It's Shaft, and it's Shaft, and it's the one Monogatari guy. What's his name? Um, and you can tell.
The Kizu guy or the other guy?
I
I think the other guy's gone.
I think it's the Kizu guy. I think it's like, yeah, it's Tomoyuki Itamura who does everything.
Yeah.
He's like their premiere director. That's not Shimbo. So you can tell. It does a great job of portraying the nighttime as this really vibrant and cool thing. The like skyline changes color between scenes. It's incredible. It's very, very, very pretty.
Yeah.
I think that I agree with Wade that it meanders a little bit. But I think it's kind of supposed to, because that's the vibe it's going for. And then the writing kind of goes back and forth between. I don't know how to feel about the main boy. Basically, he's awkward, but he's awkward in a way that I think feels pretty realistic. In a way that like people that anime tries to do the awkward teen boy thing a lot and fails miserably because they don't know how human beings operate. But he feels genuinely like a dumb kid a lot of the time too, that doesn't really know what he's doing, and that can come off well, and then other times it can be a little bit annoying. I like Nazuna. Okay, it's the vampire girl. Okay. The show is pretty horny about portraying her, but I mean, I'm sure he is too, about like that's kind of the whole thing, is like grappling with the show, or the whole conceit is like she's kind of flirtatious and sexual, but is afraid of love and commitment. Like she does not like talking about love and being in a relationship, but she'll like kind of show her body off and be like, check me out. And then he doesn't get like all anime flustered and react. He just kind of looks at her and he's like, oh yeah, that is kind of hot. I don't know. It's an interesting.
So he's not like the dude from Nagatoro or one of those shows where he's like, boobs.
Yeah,
the protagonist is a slight better. There's so many shows recently that are following sort of this structure of like, what if we took a mostly plain like Japanese guy who you, the likely Japanese viewer, may relate with on some strong level, and what if there was a very pretty, attractive, quirky woman who was inexplicably very flirtatious towards you for seemingly no reason at all?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be cool? And playing to that has just been something that anime like has known about, but has only really started hammering like just the bare basics of this concept like down in the past couple of years with shows like Nagatoro, that
Dress
one
Up Darling.
Dress Up Darling. What's that one?
Uzaki, the huge knockers.
Yeah, Uzaki, but also the that one like harem show about the tutor, we never learn or whatever, Bokuben, and then the other one that's like basically the same premise but like something different. The quintessential quintuplets.
Oh, Quince,
yeah, Quince. Like that sort of genre of show is like, I guess, meta, if you really want.
It's the anime meta right now.
It's anime meta right now, and so it's so bland, so soulless, and so just like what if you got horny while watching this show? Like, here's a show to get horny at. Like, that's pretty much all the substance that these shows have had. But this one, it feels like it's a little bit more purposed, I guess, than that. It has a little bit more that it wants to say and do, even if it's not well executed or not strongly defined. There's still a little bit more there going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like it has a much stronger grasp on how these situations, on how situations play out in the real world, and it's not as, ridiculous in anime and just like cranked up to 11 for no reason, and it keeps it sort of chill, and I can appreciate that. But it's still like, I'm still sitting there and I'm still watching a show that is in essence not super dissimilar from just like, what if there was a girl?
It has a lot more artistic merit than a lot of the shows you just mentioned. There is a clear vision, like, and we're trying to do something, which I can appreciate. And I'm gonna finish it, but I'm on episode like 6 or 7, and I still am kind of struggling to find that hook that's making me click on the next episode. I am just kind of watching it because that's like my friends are watching it, we're watching it. I think the music's really good. I like that band that they got doing the insert songs, the OP and ED. They're all really good.
I think the music in that show is really strong.
I expect that it will I think where we are at, where I'm at right now, it is about to start having more of a concrete narrative that is more so. It has very much been a character study in the first like 5 episodes or so, just kind of about the main 2 characters and how they play off each other, with the exception being the one girl that Wade was talking about, who honestly hasn't really shown back up in since her episode or 2. And so I don't think it's doing the harem thing. I think it's more visiting different characters and kind of getting a snapshot of their life and how they experience the nighttime. That's kind of the interconnecting theme, because we just met this salary woman who hates her job, and that's what this episode that we're on was about. So it kind of gets these little snapshots into their life and like why they're out here in the middle of the night, why they're not sleeping. So I think if you view it kind of in the I don't want to say the Mushishi vein, but I guess it's kind of like that. I think it's more episodic on purpose, because we're trying to hit a vibe.
Yeah.
So
I
said this. Yeah.
Are we calling it? All right.
Yeah.
That's the seasonals.
Woo.
That was we had to cover a lot of ground, because I guess we had to like introduce kind of like
we had to introduce a lot of
the stuff and like kind of explain everything about them. Yeah.
Or, well, we're not watching them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sequels this season. We're just not watching them.
Yeah, definitely not.
I don't wanna.
Can't get me.
They're all mid. All the shows that are sequels are mid, so, or bad.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're watching
non-seasonal stuff. Watching I watched a couple things over the span of a few months. I've watched like a few things here or there, but I think like the 2 things which I guess biggest stick out to me as like things that I've been watching or have watched lately is I watched the latest and potentially last for now, maybe sometime in the future there'll be another, but Masaaki Yuasa directed film Inu-Oh, which Chris, you also watched.
I also watched this in theaters.
Yes, and I've read mixed reviews on it, and it seems like some people really did not like this movie.
I get it.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily a movie that is going. I feel like it's not trying to be like a crowd pleaser. It's trying to kind of present like a pretty simple concept, I guess. It's kind of a tragedy, the way the movie is like set up and how it resolves. But it has like, you know, a little upswing at the end there to make you feel a little bit better and make you feel maybe not so sad. But I think otherwise there's just a lot to enjoy about the atmosphere of the movie. I think it's a good thing that Science Saru produced the Heike Monogatari.
I was going to mention, if you weren't going to talk about it, it is almost a sequel, but not really. It helped me a lot because I knew what the fuck they were talking about in the movie, and I think if I had not watched Heike Monogatari, I would not have known what the fuck they were talking about because I'm not familiar with the Heike history.
Yeah, I'm not Japanese, so like I don't know that. Like, you know, that's not like a part of my culture. So, you know, watching that series to kind of like understand this like really foundational aspect of like the Japanese storytelling culture and like the history of their, you know, of like no theater, although it does mention in the movie that at the time what we now call no theater was referred to as sarugaku, which I think is very funny and a great name for it because it's just like monkey music, which I think is an awesome name to give something. But yeah, the movie just like because I watched that story and I like kind of understand like the idea behind it, because the idea is kind of, I guess, like this sort of Japanese concept of like they tell these stories like not necessarily to like ideologically honor the people who died, because they lost their faction and their ideals lost in history, and they didn't hold on to power, and there's none of them left, you know, but they still kind of like tell what happened because there's this like idea of like, preserving the history to kind of satisfy the rage of this past conflict. And that's the main like driving force in the movie, is our characters are kind of acting as they're kind of acting as avatars for these, spirits of past Heike warriors, and telling the untold stories, developing new legends and revealing things to the public through these sort of like uh, these songs, which are abstracted by the film to become these like rock set
I
pieces.
was gonna say, I think I'm gonna put a general spoiler warning just in case anyone who hasn't. I don't know. I'm sure Wade, you haven't seen this, right?
No, I haven't seen it.
And if you, I assume you don't care as much. But for anyone else who hasn't seen this movie, I want to put a spoiler warning to skip ahead, because I think I went in blind. I did not know what the genre or style of this movie was going to be. I thought it was going to be a pure historical piece. It is not, and we can talk about that in a second. But the experience of realizing what the movie was doing in the midway point and what it was transitioning into was like transcendent for me. It was fucking insane. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You can keep
Oh,
talking about it
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah. The just like cuz like I knew what it was going to be, cuz like I watched all the trailers and I like
Mhm.
read like things people said about it. But it's still like just like really a lot of fun the way they kind of crafted the story, because it's not like there's a ton of musical numbers, because they do kind of like reuse some pieces for like transitional scenes, which in the same way as like you would have like I guess like a Greek chorus or something like that, kind of like introducing the concept of the next scene, and then
Mhm.
like that. But just like the way that like they're visually put together, kind of like the way it's abstracted to sort of really nail home the difference between like the pieces and the stories that our characters are putting on, compared to the very buttoned down and conservative stylings of the other Sarugaku dancers. It's just like it's so fun and it's so nice to look at. And even if like the story itself, maybe you wanted something more, it's I feel like it's just like a movie that you inhabit for a little bit of time, and you go away from it having enjoyed that time you spent in that space, and like viewing what they're saying about like creativity and uh like personal identity, and like how you perceive yourself, how you create the identity for others to perceive you, through creative efforts, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot of fun to be had, and I enjoyed watching it. Even it might not be my favorite of his films, but I think I like this a little bit more maybe than his kind of safer romance movies that he's done a few of.
Mhm. I agree with that. I like it better than Lou and the Ride Your Wave as well. The Ride
Yeah,
Your Wave is very as good. I like that too.
Ride Drive is very
Uh,
pretty. It's nice.
it's sad. He likes making sad movies. Not all the time. It's not better than Night is Short, which is probably still going to be my favorite, and that's just hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean, what Night is Short is kind of working with a Tomihiko Morini
Yeah,
story, and there's just so
yeah.
much power there in terms of like how cool it is.
The combo. Yeah,
Yeah, you can't beat
but
that, so it's like that's fine.
yeah. I thought that it's, first of all, it's beautiful. Like obviously he's a very talented director, and the studio behind it, when they want to, can just like really put out some pretty pieces, but this one in particular is like visually stunning. I think the sequences, all the musical sequences are great, but even the intro, when he gets blinded and then you get to see that his perspective as he's like experiencing the world while
Oh
blind, and
yeah.
the that all that shit, which honestly isn't even really a huge plot element, but it's just fucking insanely beautiful the way that that was portrayed.
It's
Um,
really cool.
and then, like I said, I didn't know it was a rock opera, and when it developed into a rock opera, I was like, I lost my mind. Just I think I made a joke when he first started. They first started their little band thing. I was like, to my friends, because we were the only 3 people in this theater, so we could get rowdy and be fun, in the showing. And then I made the joke, was like, oh, he's gonna invent rock and roll, and then he did, invent rock and roll, and that was the plot of the rest of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Which is insane. So, all the musical sequences were incredible. It was like being at a concert for basically the back half. And then everything that you said about the individualism and that combating with like what the regime wanted, and they still were able to go out with that final concert at the it's a beautiful film. Like I said, I can see it being not for everyone. I would highly, if you can make it through it, and also just because I think Heike Monogatari is a phenomenal anime, you should watch Heike Monogatari before you watch this. I think it'll enrich your experience a lot more.
Yeah.
Uh,
At least so you can like understand culturally like what they're even talking about.
Yeah,
when
because otherwise they're just gonna
like,
say a bunch of names and figures, and you're like, I have
who
no
is
idea.
Munemori? Like, am I supposed to know who that guy is? Like,
I think you could get through it without any knowledge of any of this, just on the visual presentation and the vibes alone, but
yeah,
it would be confusing.
they give a very compressed telling of like how the like Heike conflict goes in the movie. But like definitely watching that series as a companion feels like the right way to do it.
Even though they are wildly different.
Oh yeah, totally stylistically
Like,
different.
Yamada doing like this very like down to earth and super serious historical tragedy, and then this being like this flamboyant rock opera, are different vibes, but they work well together, I think. So yeah.
That I watched that, and you watched it as well, and we
Yeah.
both enjoyed it. I had fun.
I loved it.
The other thing that I've been watching lately, which Wade's going to be very happy because he has spent a long time trying to convince me to watch it, is I have begun to watch K-On!
Woo!
Yeah, we watched the first 3
Good deal.
episodes together, both of us and our friend Sam, and it's kind of good. It's funnier than I thought it would be. It's obviously it looks nice. It's well directed. But really, I was kind of worrying that I was gonna be bored because I thought it was gonna be like all just like cute girl, like very slow motion things. But it's definitely like, at least in the beginning, it's been a lot funnier than I thought it was gonna be, and I appreciate that.
Right. I think I think it's still, K-On! Changed anime so violently when it came out. Like, it really started that whole, like, we just need to put moe girls on the screen and have facial expressions and make things, like gifable moments and like shit like that. Like, I still think K-On! Does stuff that's just like completely, no one has imitated it like since to the same degree. Like, there's still so much expression and love and care put into everything, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just got so much personality. It's just it's amazing.
It is crazy how many anime tried to do literally exactly what K-On! Did and have not been able to replicate it.
Like, a lot of people haven't even come close. Like,
which is insane. So that's why Yamada is the GOAT, or one of it at least. I have only seen, I think I've seen about as much as Yams has, actually, because I started watching it with my fiance like 2 years ago, and we have a bad habit of starting shows and then falling off and like watching other shit, and so I'm sure we'll get back around to it. It's been on my backlog on the very high priority. I think that I am going to like it a lot, because I like these types of shows usually, and I like Yamada, and I like KyoAni in general. I like most of their stuff, so I'm sure I'll love it when I get to it, but it is exciting that you're going back and revisiting such a foundational work.
So good. I'm glad that James is getting to watch it.
Yeah.
Finally.
I gave in, and I think it might have been, no, was it before or after we watched that episode of the Urusei Yatsura BBC dub?
It was before.
Okay.
Wow, I didn't know that
Yeah.
was a thing that existed.
No, it's
Oh,
amazing.
dude, you gotta watch it.
Yatsura
I'll
BBC
pull it
dub
up.
is genuinely one of the greatest things ever. It's so
It's because
funny.
it's like they don't change the content of the show, but it still feels like an abridged series. Like just by having the British dubbing, it's
they do some.
outrageously funny.
It's been a long time, like a long time since I've seen any Urusei Yatsura, not much of it. But I think they're doing a little bit of like meme dubbing where like they'll just like say stuff that's
Yeah.
like here's something funny in the shot, like oh I'm gonna comment on this, and they do I guess take the piss out of it a little bit, but it's still just like you can't get much better than just like British voices coming out of anime characters and going like
Yeah, they should do that more.
oi lum.
Yeah,
I
like
haven't seen the original at all,
not
so-
posh British voices either. Like
Yeah.
they got some
Dude,
real
like,
like
they have some
regular type
chav dudes.
dudes.
There's like a crazy alien dude who's like an intergalactic taxi driver, and he's just like the really like chav, like oi what, where are you going? Like
What you mean you're not gonna pay?
what you mean you're not gonna pay? Like it's so good.
That's awesome.
It is worth a watch just on the comedic value alone of British people dubbing an anime. It's good as gold.
That's
Anyway.
kind of like a segue away from not a segue, but it's like a detour away from talking
Yeah,
about K-On. But like something got me to just like finally like whatever, dude, I'll watch K-On, dude, you got me. And I downloaded the full series. I have like, you know, both seasons, and I think like is it just one movie or did they make two?
There's like a couple
Two?
OVAs
Yeah.
you can give or take, but there's one movie in the movie.
One movie? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the movie, right?
Yeah, I got the full.
It is called K-On the movie.
I got the full series, and you know, as soon as we wrangle, because wrangling 3 people online to watch anime together is harder than it
Kind of
sounds.
difficult, yeah.
So hard.
But yeah, I'll get to watching the rest of it. I'm having a good time so far. Hopefully, I don't get bored and come away like, you know, thinking it's mid. If I do, then I'm correct. But you know, hopefully I don't.
All right.
Yeah.
How about you, Wade? What have you been up to?
I feel like I'm just a, you know, obviously I was there watching K-On with you, but I feel like I'm just a manga reader now.
What have you been reading?
I mean, I just read all about. I'm reading some serialized shit. Obviously, Chainsaw Man is
Woohoo!
now back. You gotta read Chainsaw Man. I think we'll save that for a little later. But other than that, reading my ongoing shonens. I'm reading Jujutsu Kaisen and I'm reading One Piece. One Piece is a new edition. I binged like the whole series like a couple months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that it seems to be really winding down, it seems something I can really go into and get over with, I guess, in a reasonable amount of time. And One Piece is like the shonen manga that I never osmosed like anything of. I went in basically blind. Like the only concepts I understood was that they were pirates, and that there were things that's called devil fruits that gave them their shonen power, and that Luffy's was one that gave him stretchy power. And that's basically the extent of my knowledge going in. So I was basically completely blind. I think as far as shonens go, it's one of the stronger ones, especially with how long it's been running, and I think its specific approach to the genre is something that people haven't even tried to imitate. Like it's very unique in its approach and its execution, and I think it really struggles in terms of doing its modern shonen power. Oh, cool power, cool fights. Like it doesn't excel in the battle shonen department, but it excels in its world building. And I think that Oda has been imbued by God with some sort of holy power that allows him to infinitely produce cool looking character designs. Like every character, like almost no matter how minor, is memorable on their design alone. Like you look at a guy and you're like, damn, that's crazy. Like, and they could like never have a name that's dropped in the manga, and to get their name, you'll have to go to like some supplementary piece of media or like a Q&A to find out what their name was, but you can still look at them and be like, oh yeah, I remember this guy because he just looked so crazy, and he was like there in the background of some like arc. Yeah, I think One Piece is pretty good. It just ended like an arc that's been like it just ended its longest running arc ever and is now starting its new like overarching arc that's going to lead us into the end of One Piece, which is pretty exciting.
Like the
It's One
very
Piece.
end?
Yeah, we're winding it down. I think it'll probably be over within the decade.
Wow. Within the decade, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been going
Yeah.
for so long that within the decade's a pretty short amount of time now for it comparatively.
I was gonna give it 5 years.
Yeah,
Charitably.
I think that's a good stopping point.
Which seems insane.
It's
when
sort
you...
of it's sort of hard to make the call, but they did just defeat like main villains that have been being hyped up as main villains for like 10 years, I think. And now they're moving on to the next and dealing with the rest of the villains that have been introduced, like since the comic's introduction. Not since the comic's introduction, but since some of the early arcs in the comic. And I don't know how much more they want to do. Like they recently introduced a new villain for like the Navy guys. Like some new stuff is still being introduced, but on the whole, I think we're starting to go to the One Piece end game.
Wow. Yeah, my level of knowledge of One Piece is exactly the same as what you described when you started it. That I know very little about the franchise. So I think I don't know if I'll ever engage with it. I have accepted that it's probably the best long running shonen of all time, and probably will always be, just because I think the ability to create that much of any story and have it be all considered widely mostly good is a feat that many people like. No, that's hard to do,
Yeah,
Yeah.
in terms
So
of length, it doesn't feel like there's any point where it is super duper weak. It never drops below like this is fine. This is all right. Like even if I'm not feeling strongly about something, it's there's nothing egregious. There's nothing that isn't like at the very least a little bit I'm having fun reading it. I think its biggest strength is that it's never afraid to have fun. It'll always just like do stuff that it thinks is fun, and I think that's what's kept it afloat, is that it's fun, and that it's not afraid to have fun, and it feels like Oda has been having fun making it this whole fucking time, which is just impressive.
Hopefully he
Yeah.
survives.
I think he will.
Oh, he's not that old. He'll be okay. Probably.
Right, but like
Yeah.
stress from work, maybe
Manga
a sudden
grind
maybe
for
he
a
gets
bajillion
a Japanese cold, and maybe it
Yeah.
happens to get a little bit worse because he kept working and
Yeah.
Prayers in the chat for Oda.
yeah. So what about you, Chris?
Is that it for Wade and his manga list?
I mean, I don't really want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, we can cover Jujutsu Kaisen, but we're gonna have to start trimming here, I think.
Yeah. I'll go through mine real quick. I want to briefly mention the other anime movie I saw in theaters. This is like a month or so ago. There was a production IG movie called
The Deer King.
The Deer King. Yeah, I was gonna say
I
was
wanted to
alright.
watch that one. Because I have a friend who really likes Moribito, which is by the same author who wrote the book that The Deer King is based off of.
It is, I would say, messy and has trouble with what it wants to be about, and is borrowing heavily from Princess Mononoke in a lot of ways. And the production values aren't quite up to the level of a like anime film standard that some other ones are, but aside from all of that, I had a decent time watching it. It was okay. I think it's fine to throw on for an evening. You'll probably enjoy yourself. I'm sure the book is better. That's kind of what there's a lot of like political storylines that feel extremely like either shoved to the side or dumped really fast and not expanded on, that sound like they're part of something bigger.
Okay.
And then what else? I am reading manga too. I'm not nearly as much. Chainsaw Man back, woohoo. I'm keeping up with Spy Family, which has been really good still so far.
Oh yeah, I put off reading Spy Family because I watched the anime and I'm like, hey, this is a pretty good anime. I don't feel the need to like go and read the manga, and then I'm like, okay, I finished it. Maybe I'll read the manga, and then it's like, oh, hold on, second season's not too far off. Maybe I'll just wait.
You can. Especially just because the second core is about to start. We're gonna get, dude. I hope some of the stuff that I think is gonna be in season 2 is pretty good. So I'm very excited about that. And then I started a bunch of random one-off shit. I'm not as good of a manga reader as I should be. I was supposed to read Spirit Circle while I was on a vacation a week ago, and then didn't. But I'll get there. That's the other Mizukami. What are the other Mizukami? The Biscuit Hammer guys works. So I'll get
Right.
to that. Do we want to talk about Chainsaw Man at all?
We can talk
Or
about
not?
Chainsaw
Yeah,
Man.
we
We
can
can
talk
talk about
about
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah,
We gotta.
Dude, it's back.
it's back, baby,
I can't believe
and
it's
it's
back.
great. I think starting with a different character as the main character or at the beginning was a great idea,
Yeah.
and that
Especially
Fujimoto's
introduce
the
a
goat.
devil called the War Devil.
Yeah. Bro is
It's kind
the
of a crazy
war
devil.
devil.
It's about war.
Yeah.
Do y'all think that implies the existence of other like pestilence and death and et cetera, et cetera? Like, are we gonna
Well,
get
I think
Four
like
Horsemen type beat?
I feel like that was kind of implied like in the first part, like how like
Yeah.
it explains that there are devils like based off of like, you know, fundamental fears, and like, you know, if somebody can fear war, it makes sense that there would be a devil for it, right? Like
Yeah,
within the
exactly.
context of the
And
series.
also, the devils are stronger based on how scary the concept is, and like war is probably the scariest one that I can think of.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
War
know.
might be the scariest.
Unless there's like a lost devil, in which case that's like sort of an all-encompasser.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the introduction of the new girl. I think she is a great character because she's not quite lovable because she's also kind of a mess. She's, you know, kind of a jerk, kind of emotionally distant, but it makes sense why she's like that.
Yeah.
And you know, her friend who wants to help her out, I like that. That's a very fun dynamic that they introduce, and she's kind of a little bit more naive, and I just really enjoy how it introduces us, cuz like we already know what Denji is about. We don't have to like catch up on Denji right away, because like part 1 ends and you can kind of figure what he's going to be up to in the
Yeah.
meantime. And so they're, you know, taking this time now that we're back from this break here and we're back into the series to not only set up what is, you know, presumably going to be the primary antagonist of the series in this part, but also like this other character that inhabits the same body.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun setup.
Very fun setup.
I'm really looking forward to it. You know, like just when I'm reading it, like I mentioned this when I was reading the chapter in Voice with Wade, where it's just like sometimes I just like I stop and I like look at the page, and it's like, wow, he really drew all that on the page. Like he really did it. You
I
know?
think Fujimoto might be, with the exception of Oda, because we were just talking about these are different metrics to compare them. I think Fujimoto might be the GOAT manga artist working right now. I know that seems
Maybe.
like hype man, but between I haven't read Fire Punch yet, which I should.
His
But
one
between
shots are
Chainsaw
so
Man,
good.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Between Chainsaw Man and the 2 one shots, which I think are some of the best stories put to page in manga ever. It's incredible. He has a mastery of the medium that I have not seen in uh, many other places. It's pretty incredible.
I think if I had to compare, like, I guess based off pure vibes, it's it feels like a much, in some ways, because it's not a perfect comparison here, and I want everybody to know this is not a perfect comparison, and I know that there are vastly different ideas at play here, but it feels sometimes like Fujimoto is like acting like a more marketable Inio Asano.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Sometimes.
I think
I
Chainsaw
actually
Man
do
was
feel
more
that.
marketable than Fire Punch, but it's still pretty edgy. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, because like I read like you read an Inio Asano manga, especially like I read A Girl on the Shore,
Oh God.
and have you read that one, Chris?
I have not actually read any of his stuff. I don't
You
think.
haven't read
My
Oyasumi Pun
friend, never read
Pun.
Pun Pun. My friend has read both that and says that Dead Dead Demon that one is incredible, and so I have the at least Dead Dead Demon on my plan to watch. I'm probably gonna
Okay.
watch that soon or
Yeah,
read that soon rather.
I would say maybe hold off on A Girl on the Shore because
I
that
heard that one's
has
fucked. Yeah.
it has
Uh,
children having sex
like way too
several
much.
times, way too much. But really good story, really good manga. What can I say?
Unfortunately, you do have to hand it to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate to hand it to him, but I'm here. But yeah, that like Fujimoto, to contrast, is like much more in that like he can bring like an edginess and like an emotional rawness and kind of a similar degree of like shock while
Yeah.
still making something that like the average person is going to be pointing at the screen and going, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong agree. Can't wait for the fucking anime adaptation, dude. Should I don't know. Do we have any major topics we want to talk about? I don't know if we're winding down. I don't know how long these usually are.
We
Uh,
can wrap up in the next few minutes here because there is
Yeah.
one thing I want to talk about relating to Chainsaw Man.
I
And
was gonna mention just the next season in general, but we can talk about that more specifically if you want.
yeah,
But
just like I guess to start off, it's just like how are the animators at Studio Mappa going to survive?
It's a good question. It's a very good question that I don't have the answer to. How many projects are they working on right now? It's something like what? 6, 7?
they're on a bit of a break right now. I don't think they have anything airing this season.
But they're still working on a lot of stuff.
Yes, they are.
They're Oh no, Kakagurui. Aren't they doing that?
Is
Or is
that
that
this
next
season?
season?
Is that airing?
I think that's airing. Isn't it airing?
It
Yes, it is airing.
is. I've heard nothing about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an
Kakegurui-
ONA. That's why.
Yeah, they're doing Kakegurui, and then they're doing Chainsaw Man, and then after Chainsaw Man, we're getting Jujutsu Kaisen second season, which I think is a 24 episode run. I could be wrong. It might be a one core.
I believe they're also doing. Oh no, we're getting more before JJK. First we're getting Vinland Saga season 2, which they also took.
24 episodes, by the way.
Yeah, of that.
Yeah. I forgot about Vinland.
And then Attack on Titan final season,
Yeah,
I
of
think
course,
is
Attack
also
Part
on
airing.
3, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Final season. No.
So those are like currently presumably working on, like they're probably in the final stages with Chainsaw Man like right now. Like that's still like 4 projects that have to be being worked on by Mappa employees in some way or form. Like I can't imagine that any of them haven't had any production done on them, considering there's PVs out for all of them. I think even Jujutsu Kaisen has PVs. No, it doesn't. I don't think. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a lot.
They're just working on so much. I don't know how they're gonna make
and
it.
like the trailer for Chainsaw Man anime looked so good and looked
good.
so well put together. Like
Yeah.
if that's going to, that cannot be the average like state of the show.
yeah.
There's no way.
JJK was pretty consistently incredibly animated the whole way through. I think Mappa is able to compartmentalize, and when they know they gotta knock it out of the park for these big budget like cash cow franchise shows like Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen, and especially Chainsaw Man, I think they'll do it. I think they will put the resources in to get a product out that matches the hype, and especially for Chainsaw Man, it is financially incentivized for them to do that, I think. So that's what I would expect for this. at the expense of the workers, I'm sure. I think they have to have just hired a ton of people. There I think
That's
are
the
like
only way.
2 or 3 teams working, because they make other smaller shows too. In between some of these big ones, so they have to have at least an A team and a B team, like a lot of big studios do now.
Yeah, I
God,
guess that's true.
it's
It's
just a
still
lot.
such a workload. It's very ridiculous.
Yeah.
But hey, they should be all pretty good except for Attack on Titan.
At least
You can
they
them all.
at least when they crunch and make shows, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Unlike Cloverworks, who they all every single production they work on seems to disintegrate when they overwork themselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Oh.
will say they're doing Shadow's House, which is I think in that Hell season where they had like 4 shows, and the one with Wonder Egg where it just completely fell apart. Shadow's House was the one that was like fine. Was it so? And season 2's been fine so far. So maybe they've learned their lesson. Haha. Probably not.
absolutely not. These people don't learn their lesson. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the anime industry.
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as next season, like, Chainsaw Man is next season, right?
Yep. They
Chainsaw
didn't
Man's
announce the
next
date
season.
for a long time. I really thought that they were gonna push it to next year,
Yeah, I
but
did
then they
too.
dropped it, and it's next season.
It's next season.
Dude,
Next season's insane. There's so much shit.
Some hefty sequels in that one.
Some crazy sequels.
Mob.
God damn
Mob coming back.
Mob
That's right.
finishing up. This will be the end.
Yeah, this is it. Unless they do
Leaving it
the Attack on
behind.
Titan thing. It's probably
Yeah.
it though.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
Yep, the second half of Spy Family.
Yep.
There's yeah.
Fucking Bleach. I'm not watching that, but it is
No
crazy
way.
that it's coming back.
Yeah.
That is insane that they're doing Bleach. There's
Fucking
To Your Eternity season 2.
Yeah.
Season 2.
Which I liked the first season enough to read the manga, and wow, it's a fun manga.
I think the manga's a lot better, but
Yes,
and
it is.
Brain Space kind of fumbled the bag on the adaptation in some ways, but I think they hit the emotional beats in the episodes that they needed to, and this is also a different studio. It's Studio Drive now, so maybe
Yeah.
season 2 will be better.
And the most important sequel, Uzaki-chan.
Oh yeah.
The most
That's-
important one. You gotta
fucking-
love it.
Urusei Yatsura's remake is coming
Oh
out.
yeah, the David production Urusei
Yeah,
Yatsura.
David production reboot.
Fucking
I don't
insane.
know. I think
We'll
I'll
see.
just watch the BBC dub again.
I haven't seen the original, and I'm probably gonna watch at least some of the reboot. 46 episodes. Oh wow, they're committed to the whole thing.
Holy
I didn't realize that.
moly.
That's actually crazy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
like,
We'll be waiting on JoJo Part 7 for a while, I think.
Yeah. Well, part 6 is finishing like
Yeah, but-
soon, like in a week or
To
something,
an
right?
Urusei Yatsura. Yeah, it's finishing up, I think. They're
Mhm.
releasing the last
The
one.
wait,
last
really?
batch.
I can finally
Yeah.
watch part 6 because I've
Yeah.
held off. I've held off. I'm watching until like it's done and it's out. So
Yeah,
like,
Yeah, it's
close.
happening
It's definitely
soon.
within a couple weeks.
okay, cool.
Let's see what else is on this chart. Irma,
I've
you don't
had-
watch? Do you watch
I've had-
Irma? Sorry, you can go first if you
I've
want.
had Do It Yourself on my radar for a little bit.
Oh, that looks great.
It seems
It's a
like
Yuru camp type
Yuru-
show.
Yeah.
Yuru camp strand type game,
Yeah.
sort of a show. But it looks fun.
Mhm.
I'll give it a try. Building furniture, kind of funny.
Pop Team Epic season 2, baby, is back.
I didn't like the first season
I
very
fucking love
much.
I
I
love
thought
that
it
show.
had its moments. I think the manga is amazing. It's like
Yeah.
the manga so good. I think the adaptation was a little weird and stilted and missed a lot more than it hit. But when it hit, it was pretty good. We'll see.
I'm a huge fan of what they did with that show, the mixed media. I assume neither of y'all watched Gal and Dino?
No,
the-
but I've heard of it.
I did a little bit. I read the manga.
It is insane. You should. I don't know. It's hard to recommend. It is one of the hardest anime to recommend because it's fucking weird. It's like the Pop Team thing, and in fact, spoiler alert, it is very much like the Pop Team thing because it's all part of the same fucking extended universe, which is an insane sentence that just came out of my mouth to say about.
Oh.
Yeah, we joked about. We were like, are they gonna do it? And they kind of did. There's like crossover.
That's fucked
And I'm
up.
sure it'll get referenced in the next season. The other
Okay.
thing I was gonna talk about, have y'all seen any of Mari Mashita Iruma-kun? Ever?
Oh, you know what? I have friends that read the manga, and I have come very close to watching / reading it.
If I could give a blanket please do. It was such a surprise. I had it shoved down my throat by one of my friends who was also a big manga fan when season 1 was coming out, and I kind of went in expecting just like a generic nothing show. It is one of the best fantasy shows I've ever seen. It is incredible. It's so
Okay.
good. I am extreme. It is the season 3 is one of the shows. It is like up there with like Mob, Chainsaw Man, and Spy Family for like what I'm looking forward to most. Irma is peak fiction.
Dang.
I know it's weird. It's weird. It's just it's hard to explain. It just works. The fantasy world is really well conceived, and the cast is phenomenal. They are so well fleshed out. Yeah. See, I don't know how much everything else I think that's coming out is like newer stuff that's not sequels, and so we'll kind of see how that
Yeah.
goes. But
I'm going to watch my first Gundam series.
oh
I'm gonna watch the new Gundam.
which one?
The Witch from Mercury, because the trailer, like the visual style of it, looks really cool, and it seems like it's trying a new thing. So I think while they're trying a new thing, it feels like a good point to onboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See if I like it.
Anybody gonna watch Pui Pui Molcar?
I
Is
actually
that the-
watched Pui Pui Molcar. It's very
I watched
short.
A little bit of Pui Pui Molcar.
It's very
It's really
funny.
funny. It hits the Pingu part of my brain. I think.
Yeah, it's very Pingu core.
All right.
It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I didn't realize there's this one called Romantic Killer. It's considered an OVA or an ONA in the section. I watched a trailer for that. It looked good. Apparently the manga's good.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. The synopsis makes it sound like it's going to be dog shit. So I don't know. We'll see.
Oh right, the new what's his name? Makoto Shinkai movie is coming out
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end of this year.
Eventually, we'll probably get it in the early.
Blurring,
Yeah, we'll
Early
probably
next
get it in
year.
like spring, right?
Yeah.
something like-
Which all right. I think it'll be good to look at, but otherwise like just okay, like all his other
Jujutsu
movies.
Shinkai.
I liked Your Name. I thought Weathering with You was okay.
I liked Weathering with You a little bit more just because like I thought the visuals were better, and that's
Yeah.
like kind of all I get out of those movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else we're looking forward to or like we got going on right now we want to talk about?
Let me think for a sec. No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. I'm
All right,
good.
cool. We'll regroup at a later time and go over more anime then. Thank you for stopping by.